Hey, Tiger, let's start.
Sounds good. Let's go.
All right. Hey, guys. Hope everyone's doing good. This is going to be a really, quick informal chat about, the marketing department, marketing creative department, and, just to give you guys kind of like a peek of what goes on kind of behind the scenes at the DAO. So I'm Leon Tari. I'm the marketing. Tiger's t- I'm the co-head for marketing, and Tiger's the other head for marketing. All right, let me just share screen here.
Thanks, everybody, by the way. Thanks for tuning in and being with us here. We want to start updating the community a lot more on progress that we have going on. So this is one of our attempts at that. So hope you guys all enjoy this, and there'll be time to ask questions at the end. If you want to ask a question at the end, just drop a message in the Fireside chat right above this voice chat, and we'll bring you up on stage.
Yeah, so again, it's just an informal talk. We want to give you guys, a better view of what's happening inside the DAO, how the teams are structured. Just to give you guys a brief history, the DAO was basically put together after the launch of Klima. Brian always says that we're basically kind of building the plane as we fly it. So the first month or so was the discovery phase for us, and the teams really formed organically. I think what sets Klima apart from other DAOs is really kind of like our vision, right? And how it kind of transcends DeFi and the Web3 space. Uh, to start, basically the energy was super high. It was a lot of people who just wanted to contribute to this crazy vision, of saving the planet. Um, Meeting after meeting, it was similar stories. It was just a bunch of people who felt, the urgency of climate change for a while and jumped at the chance to work in Klima because this was our first real shot, really of making a difference. And these were people with jobs or businesses, and like me, for instance, like I've been building my own brands for like the past, I guess, 10 years now, and I decided to kind of like leave all that to be able to focus on working here and help build this crazy vision. Um, so that first month up until towards the end of November, we were putting together the organizational structure. Um, so those who were there from the beginning showed dedication, work, like a lot. Most of us kind of like worked every day for 2 months, not really thinking about allocation because that was set up much later. And people who showed great initiative and had skill, they were the ones who eventually became leads or key contributors. Um, DAOs are, I think DAOs are very new. They're a very new type of organizational structure. But I think Klima is also unique in a way because inside the DAO, it's highly meritocratic, but we're still hyper organized. The organizational structure was pretty much set up by early December, and most of December was all about setting up workflows. We basically built kind of like an internal ad agency and creative studio. Like if you guys can see my screen, so the marketing department has PR team, social media, collaborations, web, campaigns and content, market research, and for creatives, we have video, UI, UX, graphic design, and brand development. It's still a fresh team inside a completely new type of organization, so it still comes with its own sets of challenges. Towards the end of December, we updated our mission vision for Klima. As we built out the brand, uh, we kind of saw that we had to update the kind of, I guess, to make it more forward looking. I think most of you have already seen this. This was the article that we put up. And then after that, like Onyx, who's our creative lead, who's currently busy working with the rest of the team for launches coming up. She's also highly experienced, 15 years in some of the top 8 ad agencies in the world. She put together along with Katamari, put together a brand deck that I will show after Phaedrus. So Phaedrus is going to talk briefly right now about the survey results that we did. I know like a lot of you guys participated in the survey. But yeah, like before that, I just want to say like I know there were a lot of questions about when marketing. So I hope that this talk kind of like gives you guys insight on what we've been doing in the background, we really love the Klima brand and everything that Dow stands for. But we thought that, before we earned the right to do like quick marketing gimmicks, we thought it was important for us to really lay down the foundations for us to be able to build for long term. We're only 3 months of this super long journey. So yeah. Phaedrus, do you want to, I know that you got to do a podcast recording. Do you want to do the onboarding survey first? Wait, where's Phaedrus? Tiger, could you bring Phaedrus up? There.
All right. Am I coming through loud and clear now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to present and just share some highlights of the Climate onboarding survey that was actually conducted at the end of 2021 there, which again feels like a couple decades ago in the Klimaverse, in DeFi, for sure. But yeah, just want to thank all the Climates who did participate in the survey. It was really just put out as an announcement maybe once or twice, I think, just before and after the holidays. And boom, we had like over 700 awesome, completely validated responses. And yeah, I just want to take a quick minute to run through what I think were some of the key highlights there, at least from my perspective there. And this is a draft report, and we'll be publishing this later, so it might look a little bit different once it passes through our branding lens and our comms PR team there too. That Leontari was just showing our org structure, so you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek here at the unfinished product, but the report is pretty much ready to go in terms of the findings and our recommendations, or kind of the takeaways that we had from it there too. So just at a high level, want to let you know that we had 760 valid responses, and perhaps not surprisingly, we had 93% that were predominantly male. So our audience, and I think we understand generally, within crypto, it does tend to lean fairly strongly towards that demographic, and I think that's something that within Klima, we are obviously trying to address that, or work to broaden our audience there too, and broaden perspectives within the DAO. Also predominantly English speaking, not perhaps surprising. Predominantly the biggest geographic response region was from Europe. So Europe is 41% versus 37% North America. So with our podcast, I know we've actually, with our Twitter spaces, we've made some adjustments, and now we're hosting those now on a more Euro friendly time on the weekends there, where we can get more of the world tuning in. The third bullet there on the executive summary on the left-hand side, I thought was really interesting. And we can really have three big cohorts, I guess, of like 30, 30, and 30. Like 30% are under 30. Another 30 to 40% are between 30 and 39. And again, about another 30% are over 40. So we had a really excellent, almost normal curve sort of distribution of age within the DAO. On the right-hand side here, I think there's a couple of interesting takeaways that we found that respondents are generally pretty experienced in crypto among Climates, with 65% having over a year in crypto, and yet almost that exact same proportion, 69%, have less than 1 year in DeFi. Again, maybe not like earth-shattering, jaw-dropping news, but this is the sort of insights that we can take action on when we're tailoring our marketing materials, our communications, our videos, all that sort of stuff. The content that is going to help our Climates on their journey. And again, yeah, 80% had no prior experience within a DAO. As Leontari was saying, a lot of us have just kind of were down with the mission, and we were ready, willing, and able to chip in however we could over the first couple of months here, and as the DAO kind of formalized and assumed its structure. YouTube was the single biggest touch point for people to get tuned into Klima, with 28% of people mentioning that. While right now, how people keep learning about Klima, it's 74% through Discord. So perhaps, that for you, that's no surprise you're here in Discord. So yeah, Discord is where people are turning to. Next slide there. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at a different version, but sorry, I'm just one slide behind. But yeah, the financial prospects of Klima were the kind of the top driver. And close second was the interest in climate change. We'll see later on, there's some other insights around that, what keeps people in the DAO. And I thought this was incredible. The second bullet on the left, we've got 65% of respondents. So that's like over 500 people out of the 700 and however many people completed the survey. 65% of them really want to be an active contributor in the DAO. And so I think that really reflects your interest and your curiosity and your energy that you're bringing to the DAO here, just being here for the, the little chat tonight, this morning, this afternoon, what time it is for you in the world. We've got an engaged audience here. Yeah, just moving to the other side there too, perhaps. What people want to learn about is the real world impacts. And I think that's aligned with the fact that a lot of people get into Klima for, that difference we're going to make, save the world, get that carbon out of the atmosphere, give ourselves a shot at, staying under 1.5 or 2.0 degrees Celsius. And yeah, that bottom bullet too, another takeaway that I found interesting was that the vast majority of respondents, 83%, do consider themselves long-term investors in Klima. And yet at the same time, most of them have allocated, a relatively, modest amount of their crypto and their overall portfolio to Klima at about 15%. I'm gonna cruise through this here too, but again, the survey, had some limitations in the fact that we were primarily just doing it in Discord. It was kind of a sample of convenience, which means we, took whoever was ready, willing, and able to respond, and we didn't really stratify the sample in terms of saying, okay, we've, got 200 people from Europe, 200 people from Asia, and we want to be able to make statistically significant conclusions about their differences. That really wasn't the idea. This was kind of a census, and just let us understand, who have we got in Klima as Climates within the Discord server. So yeah, we'll just keep moving here. Yeah, valid responses there. Again, that's just showing we had about 760 valid responses. I think our team, and a big shout out to Noob Money, EJ, and Nicoletta, who were my crew, making me look good here and helping out with the survey. But we took a very conservative approach, ruling out responses that were, first of all, incomplete. So if people only made it like, 2 or 3 questions in and then they bailed on the survey, we just threw out their response entirely. If people, for example, said, hey, I'm like, I'm totally super duper green with regards to anything on DeFi, but I've got tons and tons of experience in crypto in general, or the inverse, if they gave answers that were inconsistent with something they answered earlier in the survey, we also just kind of tend to toss that because it seemed like they weren't necessarily answering either honestly or truthfully, or maybe they were just, not taking it serious. Again, really conservative approach we took. Here's just a little deeper dive. Again, you can see male 93%. And I think, later on we have other fireside chats about what we're doing to help address that. This beautiful, normal looking curve for age too. I think that's just awesome. The broad appeal, it speaks to the broad appeal of Klima as well. I think a massive opportunity there. Europe. Yeah, Europe is our number 1 location, followed by America. And you can see there a lot of the other regions, room for growth and room for Klima to kind of expand as well too. So I think we'll be able to pivot and act on that information there. Again, not too surprising, English top language, but again, as we've got a website coming out, a website refresh coming out, that we know we want to be able to ensure people can access Klima from wherever they are in the world and in whichever language they would really prefer to. Okay. Yeah, this one's kind of cool because we know that I already gave the spoiler that we have 65% of people that want to contribute actively. But you can see the actual, previous tangible skills in carbon markets, climate activism is still fairly rare. But we do have a sizable chunk of people who do have, tech, startup, clean tech sector experience. So we can lean on that for sure. Yeah, here's more of the story about the crypto involvement. So this is kind of skewed more towards experience. And here's where the stat headline was 65% have a year or more. So our climates are experienced in crypto. And the next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll get to that next slide, the one I had in mind in a second. But you can see here too, this is definitely actionable information for us here on the website. People do prefer to transact or buy crypto on a laptop or desktop, with comparatively few, like a fifth, looking to do that on mobile, and a fairly even split between sexes and dexes for places that people are picking up their crypto. Cold wallet use. Yeah, we've got 57% actually are using a cold wallet like Ledger or Trezor, while about 40% don't. Again, that's kind of important information for us when we're describing people's journey and how they can get on board with Klima for the first time as well. We'll keep that information in mind. And this is the question that I had in mind too, where this is kind of like the flip side to crypto involvement. So people have got, most have over a year of crypto involvement. The flip side, this one's kind of skewing more towards the top here, with the vast majority of people having, less than a year of DeFi involvement. Not so surprising, perhaps, but and then skewing even more to the left as well too. So with DeFi, that was the curve, and here with Olympus-like protocols, skewing again even more towards the top. With again the majority having less than 3 months, or Klima is their very first Olympus style protocol they're involved with. Yeah, move past that probably quickly. Yeah, just 20% have previous DAO experience. And then what their experience is might be interesting. But again, most of them are just saying it's a general experience they've got, with again, a smattering of other experience across the board, from marketing, engineering, policy, all of the different departments that are here within Klima as well too, and that hopefully you'll get a chance to get a little bit more acquainted with and oriented to over these fireside chats. Okay, so here's where we dive a little bit deeper on how people first discovered Klima. And again, YouTube was that top mention. Discord not too far behind it there. But yeah, again, people tend to discover things on YouTube. And I don't know about you, but things like the Bankless and their podcast and their videos and stuff that are up on YouTube, those were kind of core venues or in core channels for people to discover Klima back in September, October. Okay, so I talked about this off the top. We've got making money and fighting climate change as the big kind of 1-2 punch, with making money kind of eking out a win there. Whereas you can see, making the polluters pay, and just because it's innovative, that's a little bit further back. I keep going. Again, here, I thought this was also interesting that the DAO model, the fact that Klima is a DAO and people are able to engage not just in governance, but in operations as well too, tends to be very important for our respondents. So I think that was a good finding. Again, 65% want to find their way of contributing actively, and I think that's excellent. We've got a deep pool of people to draw on. And how would they like to get involved? So number one here is community. So that's good news for our friend Rikuman and the community team, that people are raising their hand, stepping up, and helping to make the Discord and helping make the overall climate experience a positive one. Other departments there, you can see their interest as well too. Okay. Yeah, this was spoken to off the top as well too. We'll just keep moving there, but the Discord is the number one place by a long shot. This is interesting as well too, that Most respondents found their experience relatively easy in terms of, how to learn about Klima and how to bring their fiat money into Klima and actually bridging and transferring to Polygon fairly easy. Again, there's obviously some room for improvement there, but down the for all three of those, still fairly positive. On the flip side here, um, or actually, there's really just one that stuck out a little bit, and that was using cold wallets for Klima transactions. A little bit more, um, considering there was a good chunk of people that were using cold wallets. This was a little bit of a pain point. Otherwise, fairly easy. And likewise on the website app, again, we are updating the website. You're going to be excited about that for sure. But even with our V1 or V0 website at launch there too, people found it fairly straightforward to stake. But bonding was perhaps more confusing or less well understood by our climates. And spoke to this in the executive summary up front too, but people do really want to learn about the real world impact, more about the protocol itself, that black hole or flywheel effect for bringing carbon on chain into the treasury, the utility of BCT and Klima, a lot of great stuff here too for us to think about how we're going to package, present, and educate our climates too. Definitely actionable information here for the marketing team, and our podcast producer Don also does double duty as our video guy too. And this is important information for him to know that people really are keen to learn things through videos as well too. So you can see that technical written documentation at the bottom in green. Like obviously you're joining a new project. Top question comes up is where are the docs? I want to see the docs and read through it, like the white paper and all that stuff. And people appreciate that, no doubt, but they really turn to videos and learn much easier through videos and simple written explanations.
Yeah, just to quickly speak about this part, in terms of documentation, we haven't really focused on updating those because those already, I think those were pretty well built. But because Klima has a lot more people than most other DeFi protocols in terms of, I mean, a lot more new people, right? So if you guys notice, we've been building out, a ton of infographics, and the video team actually has around, I think, like 19 videos on the plate, like on their plate right now, that will regularly kind of start pumping out. Yeah, and those have been kind of in those have been in the making since early January. So yeah.
Yeah, their plate is full, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this one was interesting too. How they like to learn through videos, but how simple do we have to make it? And this is kind of the whole Eli 5 or explain it like I'm 5 question. And I see kind of two ways to interpret the data here. We really only have 10% who are saying just across the board, tell it to me like I'm a child, please. Just make it as simple as possible. But then the flip side of that is that it's really only about a quarter or 27% there that are saying, hey, like I'm an expert, don't dumb it down for me. I've got this, just lay it on me. So I think there's relatively few that are needing to be handheld every single step of the way, but at the same time, it's the vast majority that do need some level of help and handholding too. This one was spoken to off the top, 83% with a long-term investment horizon. So relatively few people who are looking to like flip or just make quick trades or speculate. I think that's a great sign for our community too. Yeah, and again, this just reflects the fact that again, for the legend there at the bottom right is saying blue is crypto and yellow is overall. So for both of those, climates tend to have a low proportion of their portfolio in Klima. So that just reflects that 0 to 14 range is by far and away the highest for both of those.
There was
And
sorry,
yeah.
Faders. There was just a question right now in the marketing Fireside chat.
Yeah.
So Tyler was asking where the videos are going to be pumped out. So they're going to be coming out on YouTube. I think we have a couple there now, and we're also going to be putting up a resources section on the new website. So this part of the site might not be there on the phase 1, but it'll be there like in a couple of weeks after phase 1 launch. So yeah.
Excellent. And let's see. So this is kind of where we flip in the survey, and we'll just bring things home fairly quickly here, taking a fair amount of time to go through this. But it was definitely we had so much great content and so many incredible responses. Just want to run through this with you. But this was our qualitative data now. So instead of like rating scales or multiple choice, this was asking people just open ended, what makes you excited about being a Climate? So for this one, I'll just ask you to remember back that number one reason for joining Klima at the beginning was to make money and then fight climate change or whatever. But then now here you can see, where does making money fit into what keeps people excited about being a Climate? And of course it's still there. It's like the fourth one, but you can see fighting climate change, making a real world impact, participating in something that's really innovative. That's kind of what gets people excited about it. Yeah. And it's just some pull quotes there too. We won't read through those, but we're going to have that in our nice polished up final report that we'll be sharing soon. Again, concerns. Obviously, this has been a challenging, time for crypto, for DeFi, and certainly for us here at Klima as well too, in terms of, things like market. So not a surprise that Klima's price comes top of the list in terms of concerns. But there are other things there as well too that we can help in terms of marketing and communication and education. There's fears like, what if the project doesn't catch on? What if the goals just don't work? So that could be things like the fact that bringing carbon credits on chain somehow doesn't cause the price to go up in the real world, for example. That would be an example of things not working. And again, you can see, I like pointing out down there too that in terms of like just pure raw FUD, there's that, it's a rug, it's a scam. That's kind of further down there too. And these were questions, these were responses that we coded and put together into those different categories. And then finally, user experience. So this is stuff like, website, just overall, like how can we make your journey as a Climate easier? And I think here, again, considering that this was completely open-ended and certainly welcoming critical things, it was great to see that the actual number one response in, hey, tell us about your experience, the number one response was that, hey, the experience was smooth, it was great, it was fine. But still, again, this exercise and doing the survey and talking to Climates about their journey and their experience is definitely not about giving ourselves a pat on the back. There's no value in that for us. There's no action that we can take from giving ourselves a big pat on the back. There's all kinds of information that we can take action on through this survey here too. And I think, yeah, we've got lots coming down the pipeline, as Leontari has alluded to already.
Yeah, and just to answer another question from Tyler, he was asking, how are you getting fresh eyes on the project rather than catering to people likely already invested in the project? So actually, since we put the team together back in like late November, early December, that's what we've been building towards. So we knew that for Klima, the end game would be to get mass adoption outside of DeFi, right? And we've basically been building the brand. Like, I'll show you guys the brand deck that we've put together here, but you'll also see it on the website next week. It's not just the aesthetic of it, right? Like the whole user experience, how we communicate. It's completely, I guess it's a different way. It's more in the lines of like a traditional website where everything's more plainly laid out. It's very friendly for our goal is to eventually be able to, for any of us, right? I mean, a lot of us here are very passionate about Klima, and when I'm out with my friends um or my family, I'm that crypto head that can't stop talking about it because I do this every day, and when they ask me, okay, so what is Klima, what is eventually, and I tell them about it, and they ask, okay, how do I get into it, right? So I wanted to be able to create a website with our team that can where I can just like hand them the website and they can onboard themselves, right? So that's basically the thought process that went into building that new UX. When the new website comes out, all the integrations won't be there yet, but the DApp will be improved on. But for phase 2 of the site, and this will be maybe sometime in March, we'll have Mobilum integration. So basically, people can just buy with their Klima with their credit card, and then we're going to be integrating Zapper, so all the staking and bonding can happen on the website. So yeah, so it's a constant improvement. We have a really good team, and we're going to nonstop try to make this as frictionless as possible, to be able to for all of us to really be able to kind of onboard as many of our friends, maybe business partners or whatever, into the protocol. Yeah. All right, Phaedrus.
Yeah, no, that's kind of it for that deck there too. And yeah, I do need to bounce in just a couple minutes here too. But yeah, I don't know if you want, I could just give a quick podcast update there too.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually one of the. Yeah, if you want, you can do the kind of the highlight that Don was saying about.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got like just a couple little bullets there too. It's just been an incredible journey. I can't remember exactly how many weeks now we're in, but myself, Reg, and Reikuman, this was just something that we started, just kind of casually. That same journey experience that Leontari was talking about. We're just, passionate climates and want to chip in and do what we can. Started off with some casual Twitter spaces back in the day, November. And yeah, boom, we are the official podcast of KlimaDAO right now, and so excited about that. And in 27 minutes, we'll be recording our 10th episode. And yeah, just really excited about the journey and where it's taken us. And hopefully you've been able to, tune into some of them. We've had conversations so far with Archimedes, Dionysus, and lots more behind the scenes conversations about the people running Klima, the people who founded Klima, the vision, how it all came together. You get a chance to meet and learn about them and their backgrounds, as well as our partners. And yeah, some great partner episodes coming up around the corner here too. So you're going to have a chance to hear from them and understand, the value that they're bringing to the Klima ecosystem through their partnerships with us. And yeah, Don, our producer, has done just a great job, cobbling together some stats, because podcast stats are notoriously opaque and kind of hard to really get true numbers on. But we just have some incredible data where it's on average about 2,000 people downloading or listening to every single podcast episode so far. And the one that just I think is just amazing too is for our full podcast episodes, because we have shared a couple of them that were, our Twitter spaces, but for the full podcast episodes, the average is like 85% listen rate. So that means in these episodes that are like lasting an hour long, people that are tuning in, they're listening through to like 85% of it on average. And that for me is just mind blowing. And yeah, another little bullet point too, we did actually hit the #1 spot on Good Pods in their top weekly podcast a couple weeks back. And they featured us on their staff picks too. So yeah, for whatever reason, Good Pods loves us, and we're happy to hear that. And yeah, otherwise, just super excited about where the podcast has been going, and hopefully you can check it out and hop onto our Twitter Spaces too that we're hosting weekly now.
Yeah, and just to give everyone here kind of like a view of the design update that recently happened.
Yes.
We just quietly relaunched the branding for Planet the Climates, and yeah, you guys have these really dope new profile photos. So yeah.
Yeah, the podcast went pro, so thank you so much, everybody. This is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been killing it, so thank you.
Yeah, shout out to the podcast team. If you haven't taken the time to listen to any of the episodes, or if you haven't listened to all of them, highly recommend you don't miss any of them. They are like most up-to-date, deep alpha content, super educational, and have great guests too that are just like really experienced in the space or in the team, or both. And yeah, it's just it's just great content. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, Diamond Hands always digging for the alpha, and we aim to deliver with every episode. So yeah, check it
for
out.
sure.
All right, I gotta go. So yeah, we'll talk
All
to you
right,
guys
thank you,
later.
Phaedrus. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks so much, Phaedrus. Appreciate it.
Bloodhound, your question about the release of the 19 videos. I mean, it's going to be released. It's not going to be all released at the same time. But yeah, definitely, we're going to do ads and SEO, and Tiger will touch on that later. Yeah, just to kind of like really go back, just to briefly introduce you guys to the team. So this is pretty much like the leads for marketing creatives. For campaigns and content, we have Ritaka, who's also very experienced. 10 years of building brands and startups. Like a lot of the improvements that you guys have seen in terms of like the infographics and the content we've been pumping out is being led by him. Reg, who's part of the Planet of Climate's podcast, is a super good writer. So he's our PR lead. He's also working with a really good team. Social media is about to get all our socials are about to get a revamp, and Tiger is going to be leading the charge on that. As you can see, like market research is being led by Phaedrus, who just hopped off. He's like PhD levels in terms of this stuff. The collaborations, which are basically, we have Klima Infinity is about to launch next week, and we have a lot of partners coming in for the launch. So TriSync is leading the charge on all the co-marketing that's going to be happening. So we have a lot in the pipeline on that as well. And again, Tiger will be leading the charge on SEO. For creatives, we have Onyx, who's one of the leads for creatives, and she has like 15 years of like creative director experience, and she's been hopping around the world like creative director in a lot of different countries for top agencies. Zernos are basically PM, so he's the one like doing the project management for the creative projects. Brand development is being led by Leonardo-san. So the way we handle our brand and is because a lot of us in the team we have experience working with the top IPs in the industry, like DC Comics, Universal Studios, all these other yeah. So the way we approach the brand is we're going to be approaching it in that sense where it's strict, it's kind of like in a licensing kind of way. So yeah, so Leonardo-san is the one making sure that all the it takes months, with a lot of budget or years to be able to build a consistent brand that everybody kind of identifies with. So we want to build this foundation from the ground up, right? And really, we want like a really good foundation for it. So Leonardo-san is the one making sure that that happens. Graphic design is being led by Katamari, who's also a really good designer. Masamunes leading the charge in UI UX. He's a really good UI UX guy. You'll see with the when we launch the Klima Infinity dashboard, the new website, the designs are all led by him. And of course, Phaedrus has already talked about Don Mihu, who's leading the video team. And if you guys didn't know, we also have a TikTok channel that just came up, and he's also helping out with that. So yeah, another thing I wanted to touch on is kind of the branding deck that Onyx and Katamari worked on. Basically, like the whole team. I think Buddha's also here. Yeah, so this was a group effort we've worked on this since December, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but I just wanted to give you guys a peek into how we've really kind of built this brand. Yeah, so in terms of the vision, this is pulled from the article that that we put up. The mission, putting together the mission vision wasn't it wasn't a quick process. This was something that several contributors, core members, and council members, like we really sat down and mapped out the roadmap for basically like the next, I don't know, 5-10 years for Klima. And what we want is to create a future where the cost of carbon to the climate is embedded into our economic system through the creation and governance of a carbon-backed currency that aligns incentives, right? So basically, the future we see is one where the cost of pollution and the cost of carbon is basically factored into every economic activity. So that's our goal. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, we pretty much we dissected the brand and did a lot of analysis. Just something like this, like where's the assets communication axis. So we're treating every single social media, basically every single publishing platform that we have. Every single content is treated a bit differently. Like something like TikTok would be, when we say revolutionary, it means like, it's a bit more disruptive, I guess, a bit more, for entertainment, attention grabbing. When we say authoritative, it's something more technical, right? So yeah. So even for the content, we kind of like do deep dives like this one. Okay, so there were a lot of questions about the genesis of the logo. So the core member that created the logo, his name is Vader, and so he initially wanted something about with planet Earth, but he didn't want it to be super obvious, right? So he found this. If you guys know the alchemy symbol for Earth, it's basically this one. It's the upside down triangle with the line through. And since fighting against climate change is all about time, he placed this triangle here to kind of make an hourglass shape, right? And he basically opened the bottom of the hourglass to symbolize the black hole for carbon, to express that hopefully time will never run out. Yeah, so that's kind of just a very quick background on how that logo was formed. Yeah, and something that I wanted to also touch on is just going back to the question from Tyler in terms of what we want to do with Klima moving forward. Right now, we're talking to some of the top, branding and PR agencies in the world, and because again, we're basically a unique DeFi protocol in a sense where we're we're also creating a mass kind of like a meat space brand at the same time. So we are going to be needing that kind of push, and the talks are almost done, and that's super exciting for us. We're talking to basically the agencies that have built some of the top tech brands from our generation. Yeah, so I'm not gonna go through all this. This is like the Klima green, the kind of blue. The new design elements that we'll be using. Design team, if you're here, I'm sorry, I'm giving spoilers. Yeah, and something important for the brand, and this is not just for not just for like the marketing creative teams. This is something that we we were talking about internally with like with Reiku, with the leads of community, and we also want to make our brand cohesive all the way down to how we communicate, right? And hopefully, when I also I think that marketing is not just for the people within the marketing team. It's also for everybody in the DAO that wants to share the vision of Klima, right? So we're hoping that, of course, like the voice of Klima, when we share it, it's aspirational, accessible, intelligent. We're not pretentious, and we're friendly, and we're not combative or dictative or apocalyptic, right? So yeah. Yeah, so these are just some of the content that we'll be making. So we'll be making more climate content that's more general. And again, we have a lot of partnerships coming in. So we'll make a lot of that content too. And then you know, I think the core team has been really good in terms of creating a carbon market content that I guess, I mean, it's been, the medium has seen a lot of traffic, and um, we want to be thought leaders in that space, right? So yeah, Tiger, you want to talk about our socials? I think we have a lot of questions right now about socials and SEO.
Yep, totally. Back to what Bloodhound was asking, are we doing both SEO and ads? Yeah, we're definitely going to do both. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. But it's kind of just been, we've been just waiting to get like cleared from legal for ads, and now we do. So definitely going to be dialing in as soon as we can. Anyways, as far as I mean, immediately this week, as far as like the scam Google things that keep popping up that everyone's always brings up. We're going to outbid all those this week, and then also look into trademark, basically like doing a trademark complaint so that anyone in the world, basically if they use Google's platform, they can't use like Klima branded words, keywords and stuff. So that's like the long-term goal on that. But like, yeah, I guess I'll just jump into socials. So like a lot like what Phaedrus was going through was data, right? So we're always going to be about getting data and making the most data-driven decisions from like what we've seen to be successful, and what we see, because we have assumptions, and a lot of those assumptions have been proven wrong, right, over the last few months, just trying to build Klima, figuring out what the best strategy is on that. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same way with our socials. And so typically in crypto Twitter or crypto marketing, it's mainly focused around Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and Reddit, and then YouTube, right? Those are like the major platforms, and I've worked in quite a bit of different projects in the space, and those are the main ones, right? And they're super important. And those are the main ones we need to focus on, just basically constantly pushing out content, constantly getting engagement from, and making that happen. But we're not going to just stop there. Like Leontari brought up earlier, we're going to do TikTok. We already are. But we're also going to bridge into doing other things too that a lot of people or a lot of protocols in the market now are totally missing out on, which is marketing with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with Instagram and Pinterest, getting more of that visual thing, and the whole like visual socials, the streaming socials. Those are what I found are the most impactful and the most important. And Phaedrus's research, backs that up. And we're definitely going to keep pushing out these surveys as well as we go and grow. And so, yeah, we invite everyone to participate in that, because that gives us direct feedback on how we can improve things here. But yeah, I mean, the biggest push, the data shows it, not just in our own data, but in the Web 2 world, traditional business world, visual, like video is just it right now. So that's what we're really going to focus on as far as socials. Like we definitely want to be pushing on these visual and video platforms as much as possible. And I think there was a question Bloodhound asked earlier, which was good, which was how soon are these 19 videos coming out? So right now we're on a 1-week cadence, and we've set up a pretty strong workflow, and we kind of have the team's kind of locked in like kind of churning out stuff a lot quicker and making stuff happen. So we're hoping, once a week cadence for right now, but I'd love to in the future, and then by the end of Q1 be pushing out a video, 5 days a week, once a day, maybe even twice a day. Because that's huge, if we're able to come up with that amount of content, and it's engageable, and that's our most engageable content, then we should be pushing that out, And that's one thing, to speaking to that as far as like the video is, like right now, I'm streaming through Streamlabs, and soon that'll be set up so that it's automatically streaming through YouTube, and it's going to be streaming through Twitter, and it'll get notified, like there'll be like ways to sync this up through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Twitter. So basically, whenever we have events like this, or things that are like live and going on, we can just broadcast that to all these different channels. And since that's the most engageable content, I mean, we should just be doing that constantly, right? So that's a big thing, is just trying to get our what we have going on here in the Discord out of just the Discord, right? Like, it's easy to get really narrow focused on like, oh, just got to help out Discord. If we just focus on Discord, everything will be great. And that's like a pitfall that a lot of projects fall into. But we're much, we're focused on much more than that. We're focused on a huge, big picture. We want to be a world-class brand and a world-class organization. And basically, part of that is building out little world-class agencies, like Leontari was mentioning earlier, into each of our individual teams. So, right now we're pretty young, lean and mean. We don't have a ton of people on our social channels. I wish we could have one on every channel, but we can't. But eventually we will want to have a whole team on every single channel. And just like in a traditional business, if it makes sense, if we're like bringing in enough revenues to the protocols to support these teams that are doing this based on their activities, and we're going to be tracking data across the, this whole spectrum of different socials, then it just kind of makes sense to just keep pushing because it pays for itself, right? So that's something that we're also looking into right now, is better understanding of what exactly we're going to be using our treasury for, and how like revenues and cash flows and all that works, because from the institutional side, that could be really valuable, right? Like most crypto protocols, they might be bringing in tons of revenue, but they don't really have any public financial statements. So that's one thing we'll definitely, want to fill into. So we're basically competing with any other organization out there, right? We're not just some tiny crypto company or something. We're a DAO, we're big, we're worldwide, we're international, and we're pushing on every single front. So yeah, I mean, big push on that. Getting events synced up and starting to push on like event marketing as well is really big in the space. So one idea that I'm going to bring to life here is basically starting a Klima meetup. So we can eventually in the future probably start doing in real life meetups as well all around the world, but we'll just start out online. And there's a big market that people are missing out on in terms of LinkedIn, Facebook, and Meetup, and kind of using all those together to build awareness and exposure and to educate, right? So with these meetups, we can have certain things like this. It'll be through Zoom, in that way it provides another like medium of accessibility. Because when I hop over to all my Facebook friends and my Meetup friends, everyone's using Zoom. They're not on Discord. Discord's super confusing. Telegram is, what the hell is that? But people know Zoom, right? So getting on that platform as well to reach a totally different audience, that I would say like every project I've worked in completely is not even just that they've missed out on it, just that they're like, we don't know what to do here, or we don't want to put resources here, we'd rather put them elsewhere. But we're in a position where we're a DAO, so like we do have 80 to 100 active full contributors right now, which is incredible and might be somewhat record breaking. But the other part of it is that everyone can get involved in the DAO, and that's anyone listening to this call, anyone that's an investor. You hold a token to governance, you can get involved in that way. But the best way to get involved is just hopping into Discord or Telegram and chatting and seeing how you can get involved. And you can basically, if you hop into the Climate Clubhouse, we're usually there. I try to hop in there as much as possible. And we just kind of facilitate action. We just make things happen. So, I mean, there's a few people that have been hanging out in the Climate Clubhouse over the last week, 2 weeks. And, I've DM'd them and we're setting up different things like, hey, how can we work together to get this Facebook thing going? And anyone can get involved. That's an amazing thing, and that's the big thing about Klima, is that it doesn't just have to be about the treasury. It doesn't just have to be about money. It doesn't just have to be about what we can do as a paid organization. but it's also what we can do as an entire world. And so we need to start leveraging that on all of our social platforms by pushing different social campaigns that brings everyone together, that, you know, makes people want to get involved. Say like, hey, I'm involved with this DAO, which is kind of, I was explaining it in the grocery store the other day. It's basically like we're a part of this giant international co-op. That's a really simple, easy way, like to let people know like what you're doing. And with this co-op, we're all just working together to create climate positive action, right? So the more that we can push that message and get people along for the ride and get involved with this awesome community and all these awesome, intelligent, really bright people that, you know, care for the world and are passionate. Let's, you know, we got to get everyone involved. And like, I think we just pushed out a thing that's like the climate cleanup. And that's just like a great idea. Just like, there's something that I did a while back, and I've been wanting to start a social kind of campaign around this, where all I did was once a day, I picked up one piece of trash on my block. And I just focused on just my block, right? So once a day, all I would do is I'd go out and I'd pick up one piece of trash. And like, just doing that and seeing what that impact for 1 month, just what I did on a street no one really cares about, right? People just litter all the time. But it really made a difference. And that showed me like, hey, just one person like really can make a difference. And so what if we can get the world involved in these campaigns that are not just about money, but it's about working together towards like create change and living our life a little bit differently, just taking one extra moment, you know, pick up some trash or whatever and take care of this planet that's taking so much care of us. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's big on as far as like getting everyone involved with socials. So we're definitely going to try and figure out ways, and definitely everyone listening, you guys can always suggest ideas. You can always hop in the general Discord and just like get involved, you know, and see how you could be a part of it, or maybe come up with your own ideas that we can push and make it like a big thing, right? But yeah, I mean, that's one of the great powers of DAOs, and a big value I think people miss, like when you're looking at like the market cap and whatever. Like right now, Klima's market cap's around where it's the market value of its treasury, right? So that's saying like the market's seeing Klima as an investment, it's like about the same as like it's worth about what its treasury is. But people completely miss out on the aspect that we're this big DAO, and you know, can have this huge social impact, right? So yeah, I mean, the other part of that too, moving on, is discussion socials. So like Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, and Facebook, like Facebook groups, LinkedIn comments, and getting discussions involved on these platforms. We got to push heavy as a community on that. You know, when you see people FUDing about Klima on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, you know, take some time to try to educate them about like what you see, you know, the value that you see. And maybe if you're feeling that way too, if you're feeling FUD about Klima, take some time to like read and educate and jump in and get involved in these discussions. And we can create through just these, you know, 4 discussion socials: Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and there's more. But we can create a huge educational resource that's very easily accessible and familiar to a lot of people. And so we can start leading campaigns on each of these to foster that sort of discussion. And then,
Tiger, just really quick, like I just want to build up on what you said there about, you know, us being a DAO, because, you know, in traditional finance, when people invest in a company, they basically, okay, we invest in that company and then we just wait to see what happens, right? But here it's different. You know, you as an investor, you're basically, you know, you're part of the DAO, you're part of the protocol, and you know, everyone pretty much has that same power, right, to help. And you know, like Tiger said, if you guys have, you know, any good suggestions, it's always welcome, and you guys can, you know, talk to us on general chat. We're online. I mean, the mods are always tuned in. You know, I think we have one of the best mod teams in the space. You know, it's like we have 24-hour coverage, and you know, and they're all like, if you guys see what's happening in the background, like the mods are always active and just trying to figure out like how to best work with the DAO. So yeah, sorry, Tiger.
Oh, you're good. No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and to that point, yeah, shout out to our mod team who's just relentlessly just getting battered over the head each day with tons of fun. but they always keep a positive attitude and educate and get rid of the scammers. You know, they really care, and that's a really great thing about our team is we're not just a bunch of people that are money hungry. Like a lot of us here just became contributors full time because we just volunteered, and that's a great like part of the nature of getting involved with it, especially KlimaDAO. Is you know, the greatest way to get involved is just volunteering first, and by that you can prove the value of the work that you can add to Klima. And so right now, you know, we're taking a little bit of time off in terms of hiring, but in the future, you know, if you're already getting involved, you know, who we probably going to hire if you want to be getting involved with Klima and you're already contributing quality work and helping a part of the team, you know. So that's another great, you know, thing to think about as far as getting involved with the DAO, and just the impact that you can create with all these people that are passionately working together, super productive, super collaborative, always great attitudes for the most part, and you know, we can really do a lot by working together. But yeah, jumping back into the socials, you know, I'd love to we want to get outside of the box, right? So like we're always thinking about like how we can do things the best, but then how we can do things even better. So even like with like discussion socials, like one thing I was bringing up to the core team and the council tonight, just in an async chat, was like we got the most base devs in DeFi in crypto right now that are writing code to literally create measurable climate action, like positive climate change, right? That's awesome, and we should be showcasing that. So doing some features on what our awesome devs who always get hated on and are constantly being asked to do something, please. You know, they are doing stuff, and they're doing like cutting edge stuff, and so featuring that, getting that out there as thought leaders in the world in the technology space is definitely something we'd like to do. And then on top of that, like we could start holding events like on Eventbrite, and they could be like ticketed events, and maybe down the road, in order to get tickets, you have to get maybe some exclusive NFTs, right? That help support the project. But that's getting ahead of myself. We could hold events on here that are like industry roundtables with like Archimedes and Dionysus, or different exclusive events that we just make like, you know, a little bit more exclusive, a little bit more interesting, and maybe that can also help with like the institutional and kind of like B2B demand, getting a bunch of thought leaders in a room at once, people who really want to get involved, very experienced in their specific whatever their skill set is, and just getting them into a room and figuring out like, hey, what can we do to improve the space? How can we work together? How can we, you know, work on Klima? How can we work on your project? How can we all bring each other up? Stuff like that has been really, I've seen that be very successful in like the traditional business world, and I don't see why any reason that it wouldn't be that way here in crypto. I would say even more so because that's kind of is not as common, right? And then we can even take it like the next step to where we're going on like programming help socials, or like programming help resources where you go and you ask questions and people give a bunch of replies on like how you need to code something. And we could do stuff that's like specifically like green climate action, Klima related. We could take pieces of the Klima smart contract, put it in there and dissect it, have discussions on that as well. Just to kind of, you know, we want Klima to be everywhere. It should be everywhere, like to the point where I'll dive into this a little bit later, but you know, even we're an international anonymous organization right now that has no location, right? Don't have any like bounds, but even as far as doing local SEO, so that when people search like I don't know, green businesses near me, KlimaDAO pops up in their local place, and they click on it to Google My Business, and they can figure out how to get involved with our website right there, right? Like, and then maybe people who are in real life Klima Infinity partners, and they have, you know, a physical thing, we could set up a thing where people find out through Klima, through like Google My Business and different listing platforms like that, or you review platforms like Yelp, but Google's My Business and Google ratings are like the biggest ones right now. But yeah, I mean, always thinking outside the box. So that's one thing. Event marketing, we have a huge one coming up. Not going to leak too much off about it, but plans to be one of the biggest, no, the biggest crypto, DeFi, sustainability, carbon markets, climate positive, climate action conferences in the world coming up here. So keep your eyes peeled on that. But on top of these big, blowout events that we're definitely going to start making come alive very soon here. There's also just, getting events along the way, doing certain activities. So one thing we're doing right now, you can see us fight for our lives against Concave this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going head to head with Concave, another protocol they're launching really soon here, that are big supporters of Klima. And we're going to do like a kind of a DAO to DAO. Well, they're a co-op, so it's a DAO to co-op gaming tournament. And they're building out a whole league for that. So we're going to get involved with that, as well as just kind of running our own show here as well. So if there's any sort of games that you want to get involved with, anything that you're passionate about, any activities that you want to lead here at Klima and just like be a part of this event marketing thing, let's get you involved. Let's make it happen. It's all about connecting communities, connecting people, and just getting discussions, even if we're just laughing, talking about some funny drawing that someone made, right? Creating that connection in this digital space is awesome. It's really valuable, and it's huge for our community. So like, yeah, I mean, and jumping back to like kind of event marketing, kind of getting outside of the box, but with that meetup marketing idea that I've like the workshopping kind of idea, we have this thing that's rolling out, and it's coming closer and closer to launching, called the Atlas program, and some of you guys might have heard about it. But basically, it's gonna be workshops where you can figure out everything from like super beginner crypto and Klima, all the way, to like extremely advanced tokenomics topics, advanced carbon market issues and stuff like that. And then my hope for this is, we'll connect it and sync it up through like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Meetup and Zoom to get and Twitch to get it all out there, right? But then eventually, what we're gonna want is this to become like these full courses that can be taught or utilized as either paid or free university courses. And so I know there's our famous fudder. His name was Sep, I believe. He might be on the call. Came in, was fudding about Klima, hopped in the clubhouse, instantly converted. Well, not instantly, I wouldn't say, but we had some passionate discussions about what's going on. And he brought this idea up, and so shout out to him on that. So we're gonna try and push this out as soon as we can once we get it a little bit more finalized on the West Coast. I have some connects with a lot of the UCs over here, and it sounds like a lot of other Klimites do as well. So we'll try and push that through like the UC Berkeley circuit and UCLA, UC San Diego, and all that stuff. State colleges too. So that's another great way we want to get involved, is like with education and with the youth and with colleges and stuff like that. So starting to organize in real life events with like sustainability councils on community colleges and stuff like that is definitely on the radar. But yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And bringing it back to like the community is a huge part of marketing. It's really community involvement. I'll say it a million times over. Like, you don't have shit if you're a DAO or a protocol or anything if you don't have a community. Like, you're nothing. Like, that's like you could go broke and everything could go to shit, but at the very end of it, you have a strong community and you're still good, right? And so we want to be doing everything we can to build up our community, to support everyone here, and get everyone involved and engaged with one another to create the most huge impact in the world that we possibly can, in whatever ways we feel like as a collective community is best. So one of the things that I'm working with a few volunteer community members right now is putting in systems in place to help the community easily boost and get engaged in all areas of our social and different areas of our brand. So like one thing that we're going to start here in February is creating a bucket of volunteer tasks that anyone can jump in at any time and help out the DAO and the community, help us move quicker with more direct community member involvement. So hopefully it'll just be like this giant task list that when the paid team, you know, is too busy and working on other higher priority stuff, and you know, it's something we know is really important and we want to do, but it's just we only have a certain finite amount of resources. Then you know, the community can come in and help us bust out this queue of work, and eventually we could just have kind of this giant Klima army. It's what someone was branding it as, which I love it. Just, you know, all of us working together, sharing the weight, and just, you know, make Klima as impactful as possible, make us as impactful as possible as a community, and just get out there and make stuff happen. So like a big part that you'll be expecting this month is just integrations, getting us involved in every single platform with all of our tokens and all the tokens that are in our treasury. We want that to be listed everywhere. We want that to be, you know, universal information no matter where you're getting your information. So that's going to be a big one. I invite you all to help us out, upvote stuff. Please comment on these like integration things with like Zapper and all these different platforms. It makes a huge difference, and it does a lot as far as like SEO and getting those backlinks and different referral traffic sources that goes directly to our website and to different social channels like our Telegram and our Discord. And get involved on Telegram too. I've been trying to push myself too as well, but it's just another different side of our community, and just cool to get involved with different folks in different places. And then another initiative we want to do is creating some sort of a repository of reusable brand assets that is safe for the community to use and start creating their own custom content. That way that you guys can, you know, spread awareness of the brand and add your own personal touch to it, create unique community driven content, and even start your own campaigns yourself, and just to get the word out there in your local community. You know, like that'd be cool if you could use some brand assets to make a flyer in your town, and then go around your town, put up flyers on every window about how people can get involved in this and add to this impact. So stuff like that's great. So you know, we'll need to like rely on the community for the heavy lifting. Like we can't do it as just 80, 100 people. And you know, it's not like when I ping everyone in the contributor server that everyone's like, all 100 of them just do the task. You know, it's like everyone's busy. Some people don't see it. Some people are, you know, have other priorities. But you know, we have this investor base of 60,000 people right now, 50 to 60,000, depending on where you're looking. And if we could be leveraging everyone to help the success of Klima, then that just really helps everyone, right? So figuring out ways and systems that we can make this kind of thing happen is huge. And you know, implementing new utility for our community, for our tokens, and also for our meta tokens that we have coming out that are not, you know, necessarily like a crypto, like blockchain token, but are a little bit more like on brand. And so like that leads me to the next thing that we're going to be pushing on too, which is Metaverse Marketing. And it's a topic we've been exploring since day one, but there's not really many platforms out there that allow much customizability, that are like, that allow people to get involved. And but the good news is we've stumbled upon a really great platform, and we're already building out our own Klima Metaverse. And you'll probably see that. Hopefully, we're meeting with some of the founders this week to figure out more limitations and figure out how our creative artists can get involved with certain software. And once that gets rolling, we'll probably be pushing that out, and it'll be a whole new world that you guys can get involved in, where you can do anything that you can do in the Web3 world. You'll be able to do it inside the metaverse as well. And so that's what I'm talking about, like meta tokens in our metaverse. We are playing with the idea of creating our own in-game metaverse tokens as well. So that adds another utility layer to our community, to, you know, and to like our marketing and everything, and kind of gamify it and can have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of different angles. But yeah, I mean, expect for us to start holding our office hours in the near future in the metaverse, and you guys can all join us, customize your own characters, and get involved. Eventually, there'll be a whole world built out there, and to my point about getting the community involved, this is a great opportunity because anyone can actually build in this world. And so once we get the base concept dialed in, then we'll start accepting submissions, and we can link each other's worlds that we create and create a giant user-generated Klima metaverse. So another great marketing opportunity and just a really great way to get involved. I don't know if anyone here has spent much time hanging out with people in the metaverse, but you know, staring at a screen on Discord and people's 2D avatars all day is kind of bland. But compared to, you know, jumping in a 2D or a 3D-ish metaverse and actually having a person with a face that can walk around and like explore land and stuff, it's a whole new thing. And I think that'll be really big in bringing the community together based on what I've seen just internally. And we have really big things coming out as far as that as well, that you'll see in the future that I'm working on with Concave. And that brings me to my next point, which is like partnership marketing. So one thing that we want to do always as a protocol and as a community, as a DAO, is when we partnership with someone, we want to be adding value back to them, just like they're adding value to us. So it's not going to be a good fit if we partner with someone if they're not adding value back to us, right? But it's also the other way. It works the other way around. So we want to make sure that Klima is a favorable partner to be, that everyone's basically going to be fighting over us because they know we're that badass partner to get with, right? So coming up with like a marketing and media package, so in different deliverables and different things that we do to engage each other's communities. When we get involved with different partners or different protocols, and one of them is creating our partners' own metaverse within this Klima metaverse. So we can create a whole new educational layer for their protocol and another way for their community to get involved with their own community and to get involved with our community. So that's one of the things we're playing around with the media package thing. But you know, the other thing is, you know, you get involved with us, we seal the deal, partnership's great. Well, then they know that, you know, they're getting these assets from us. They're getting these social pushes from us. They're getting this amazing community, the Klima community, behind their project, and it goes kind of both ways. And so it's just building up that WAGMI vibe. You know, we're all going to make it, like bringing everyone together, and part of that is partnership marketing and figuring out how we can position ourselves as the best partners so that, you know, we're like the most valuable thing out there in the market. And then moving along, because I know we're already moving pretty late, but last couple things I'll touch on is marketing automation, SEO, and analytics. So starting off with analytics, I think I touched on this earlier, but we're in the midst of consolidating all of our data into one place right now and getting tools to track as many different data touch points as we can, while of course staying Web3 with everything. And so part of that is you know, collecting that through different marketing automation tools and whatnot. But then the other part is just like getting all that data in one place. So eventually what I envision is having a centralized data hub like Google Data Studios or Tableau or something, where we can visualize it and even share with the community what we have going on. But yeah, I mean, we should have everything plugged into one place. And that's something that in the crypto space, people are notorious for completely missing out on. And on the TradFi space, they're just as bad, if not worse. But just like tracking data and getting that all into one place and making it into reports that are insightful and that help drive to like the right decisions that aid to performance of our web marketing, of our social marketing, of our protocol growth, of our revenues. You know, like how does our social marketing impact our bonding revenues, and how can we utilize that for to best help out the investors? And that's another amazing thing about collecting data in this DAO, in this new DAO world that we're a part of, is we're not collecting data on a customer so that we can charge them more money and get as much money out of them as we can. We're literally collecting this data to make the experience better for the very investors who are getting involved, who are probably going to drop more money, you know, into the investment later if they believe in the project. And so we should be doing everything we can to make that the best experience possible for the people who are getting involved. We should be taking all this data and giving it back to the community and figuring out how can we best use this data to help each other out and make this the most successful thing. So I love that, like, it's such a different thing about data, which is like, typically data is kind of like this malicious thing. It's like your personal stuff, and people take it from you without asking all the time, like Google or whatnot, and you don't get paid for it. But I like to think in the future we'll all own our own data. We can maybe have our data housed inside of an NFT, and if anyone wants our data, they have to pay the price that we set for the value of our data. But that's a whole nother discussion. So right now we're getting a big marketing automation tech stack in place, like enterprise level, and that way we're going to be able to put all of like our ads, most of our socials, down to how we manage our partnerships, how we manage individual investors, support ticketing, chatbot, like live one-on-one support on the website, all that kind of stuff to make it so we're not doing a ton of manual work. And the other part of that too is like getting our newsletter out there, getting that automated, and making that just super dialed in with A/B testing to make sure that we're delivering the information through our newsletters that investors actually want and that they're opting into. And so there's a whole ton of things that's really interesting that we can do with this tech stack to make that happen and to make it a very personable, customizable experience, depending on who the user is in the newsletter and what they opt in, what they want, right? So automating all that kind of stuff and creating different things and systems in place so that, like, right now, you know, what we're using and the tools that we're doing, and since we're a young team, you know, we're doing a lot of things manually that could be automated. And that's every company everywhere. And I've done it myself. I've audited myself out of jobs. I've seen it other places. And the main thing is we shouldn't be using it to replace people. We should just be using it to boost our efficiency, make it so people aren't getting burnt out doing repetitive tasks and stuff like that. So that's one thing. And then my thing personally that I've worked on as well is like actually creating personalized like automations for individual users. And so that's something that this is alpha. I haven't really talked about this as a team, but I have basically like a way to like if you're a copywriter, I can reorganize your keyboard so it's like much more efficient when you're like copying, like selecting all, deleting, and all, doing all these things. So that's another thing is building out custom marketing tools for our team that's like individually personalized. And you know, I can whip that up super quick. And so that's just another thing that we're doing, some alpha on some internal automations that I would guarantee you pretty much none of the organizations or the crypto places out there, like they don't have anyone doing that. Maybe a little bit, but I'm going to end it on our SEO because I am the SEO people, and people are always talking about SEO. So big distinction here. SEO is organic side of things. It is like your content. It's not stuff you pay for. It's stuff you create. It's stuff you earn, right? And then there's ads, there's SEM, search engine marketing, not SEO, which is, you know, doing stuff like Google Ads. So like I said earlier, dealing with the scams, that's going to be our first order of business with ads. But since we do have the legal go-ahead, we are going to start pushing on ads. So, you know, definitely be pushing hard on that front. Kind of slow at first because it's experimental, right? Like we're in a very new industry, and so with the paid campaigns, it's going to be experimental. We're going to have to test out what actually works for Web3, you know, crypto people in So the other part of that is, instead of just focusing on straight Google ads, we're also going to do Brave ads as well. So Brave's, one of the most common crypto browsers these days, Web3 forward browsers. So we're going to be running ads there. And then if you've heard of Presearch, it's a decentralized search engine aggregator, which I use all the time instead of Google. Even me being like a professional SEO, that's what I use. And it's great. It's more data privacy centered, and it allows you to stake keywords. So we can do, it's kind of like a paid thing, but instead you buy their token and you just stake their keyword. And as long as you stay staked, stay 3-3 on the keyword, well, then you take up that position. So that's another way that we're going to be able to get, drive very, very targeted traffic. People who are super niche, that use the Presearch browser, that are definitely into crypto, well, they're going to see these ads and get more involved, get more engaged, get more educated with things like that. So that's part of it. One thing is we want to drive targeted traffic to specific landing pages to create certain goals, whether that's like exposure or create higher bonding revenues or whatever, like the goals that we deem is important. I'm not running any pre-nodes, but I would love to make something like that happen. I haven't gotten involved too much with the project, but it's been on my mind for months. Back in the Olympus days, it's a project we brought up, but just never happened. Yeah, in any other kind of ways, if you guys have any ideas in terms of targeted advertising for like the crypto space, we want to innovate here. We're the leaders here in the space. So we definitely want to be experimenting with the finite resources that we can, with different sorts of ad platforms that maybe aren't being used quite so often. And then, we probably will run, once we get our socials a little bit more dialed in organically, or maybe before, we do a huge push, start doing paid ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the like major social stuff, Instagram, probably have them on TikTok too, but probably have to pay through the nose. But we'll see, definitely top of mind for us. And it's something we're working on, and potentially even might just hire an agency out to specifically just work on that, so that we can keep our internal team really focused on the super high priority internal stuff. So yeah, that's as far as like paid ads. We'll do programmatic stuff as well, but kind of sky's the limit for that. And jumping back in more of the organic side, that's more my realm. So moving forward, we have to be huge on SEO. SEO is super important, super misunderstood. So myself, I don't have enough time to do all the SEO stuff, because SEO is huge. It's a huge fucking thing. So I'm hoping to bring on a few more people onto the SEO team and the analytics team soon here, as soon as we can. And if you want to volunteer to get a part of that, let's go. Let's make it happen. But the main thing is, starting from like a technical standpoint, which is like maybe the least understood part of SEO. We're going to make sure that our web pages are mobile first, mobile responsive. We're going to make sure that our pages are loading super fast. Doesn't matter if you have a shitty cell phone out in the middle of nowhere, one half a bar, it should load fast no matter what. Making it also accessibility friendly for people who might have visual impairments or different other disabilities. That's going to be big. And then we've also talking about going as far as the route of getting going with the progressive web app to make it even more accessible. Basically just like a native app. By nature, you can just pop it up in your phone, and it's kind of like, it's like an app, even though it's in the browser. And we would be kind of pioneering this, taking it the next step further from it just being a progressive web app to actually a progressive web DApp, because it's decentralized. So creating like the Web3 version of this, that could be just a cool project in and of itself that I'm not sure how many people are doing. But yeah, I mean, as far as the technical side, it's making sure that the website hierarchies clean and intuitive, makes sense, and is set up well so that bots can crawl it. and go in and find content really easily. It shouldn't be confusing for bots, and it should be super intuitive. And that, you know, first and foremost starts with writing clean as code. So Atmosphereful just been super on point as far as writing squeaky clean code, no filler, no nonsense. So great job over there. And soon we're rolling out our website refresh, like we've been talking about for a while. And so all these things, you know, we've taken attention to them, and we're still even till this last few hours, we're still figuring out, hey, maybe we should, you know, we should switch this up a little bit to make this more user friendly. So that's like the technical side of stuff. It's huge, and it comes from, you know, even where like you're hosting your server, and there are different unique challenges with Web3, you know, being with IPFS, but we're gonna work through all those, and we're gonna lead the space in what it means to be a Web3 SEO, to be, you know, an organization that knows what Web3 SEO is. We're gonna be leading that, and part of that is just experimenting, right? So it's gonna be a lot of fun, and if anyone wants to get involved with the technical side, that's like my thing. So hop in. You know, eventually we'll be doing stuff like analyzing log file analysis, and we have like weird things like coordinated attacks and stuff. We can be analyzing that in our back end and getting really dirty with that. So that's super important, and it's a very, very often misunderstood part of SEO and web marketing, is just that technical SEO side, but we're paying strong attention to that. The other flip side of that, you know, that's kind of like the back end. The front end side is on-page SEO. There's three like major SEO buckets, basically. You know, there's technical, there's off-page, and there's on-page. So technical is back end, on-page is like the front end, it's the website. So like I said, making sure everything's mobile friendly, mobile first, a UX first approach. So that's the main thing. If you don't know anything about SEO and you're trying to figure out what the hell is SEO, the main thing what SEO is, it comes down to user experience. You can have the best technical SEO, you can have a million backlinks pointing to you, whatever, but if your user experience on your page sucks, well, your on-page SEO is going to suck, and it's not going to be good for engagement and making stuff happen. So we're huge on that, and so part of that too is, like I said, the hierarchical nature, so people can click around and find information in resources fairly easy. Another part of that is we're going to be big on is interlinking. So we're coming up, and Leontari touched on this a little bit, with like a big content bucket, right, of different things. So we're going to be making sure that this is all very easy to find on our website. So all of our content links to one another. So when people are clicking through, and they're looking for different resources, maybe they just got into crypto, maybe they've been there for a while, they don't need to go anywhere else, because all the information is easy to find wherever they are, right? And that's what we want to be. We want to be the de facto authoritative crypto, DeFi, carbon, climate positive, sustainability publishers in the world, in the space. That's what we're going to do. And, you know, it just starts with this strategy of being holistic to our approach on this. So, you know, if someone is looking, like this is an example that got brought up a while back. Someone's like, they're trying to get involved with Klima, and it's their first time. They want to go get on the Polygon network, so they have to figure out how to put that in their MetaMask, right? So most people, they search how to switch to the Polygon network on MetaMask or something, right? And MetaMask is the first website that comes up. But in the future, what you want to be expecting, if we're doing our jobs right, and it's going to take a while to get there, but we'll get there, is when someone searches, you know, how to get on the Polygon network on MetaMask, Klima should be the very first website result, because we should be so tightly involved on the internet, like with social signals, backlinking, community with Polygon, that MetaMask is no longer the top result for that. It's us, because we SEO'd the shit out of our pages. And we went through and created content that covers every single question, and it covers every single glossary, you know, all the terms, everything needs to be covered. And so eventually we'll be a giant educational resource, And the start of that is just starting with the very, very basics, crypto 101, how to get involved, security, you know, Klima 101, how to buy, how to stake. So that'll be our first like big push as far as content. And then obviously on the flip side, we're going to need to be doing content for our partners, you know, letting people know what's going on. And so that's part of it, right? So there's the beginner, what I call the sprout content. Then we got the advanced, more complex stuff. That's like tokenomics. That's like very complex stuff, like, and maybe even like thought leadership stuff, not just in like the carbon markets, which is definitely, you know, we want to be the leaders there. We want to be thought leaders in Dows, thought leaders in Web3. But also, totally lost my train of thought here. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just touch on that really quick.
Yeah,
so just going back to the content stuff, you know, the way we structured this is that, you know, for just going back to like what Tiger said too, right? Like these kind of like more broader, the broader climate content stuff is something that we want. I know that, you know, basically for the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years, I mean, the climate change urgency has been there, but like it's never been more important as it has been now, right? So these are the kind of content that will be, you know, more friendly, I guess, in a way to like it'll reach a broader market, right? So like says here, like furthest from becoming a climate, like lowest intent to invest, and we aim to kind of like put them down, like, you know, kind of hold their hand down to this funnel. Like the more knowledgeable they are, the more kind of I guess receptive or more understanding they'll have for kind of like the heavier content down to the carbon market. You know, because when you get to the carbon market side, it's a bit more technical, and then you get to the DeFi stuff, right? And then when you say community content, then, you know, that's even more specific, right? But, you know, that's the community content is also where the fun stuff is. And, you know, the way we put together all this is we also planned out our publishing channels. And yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun over the next few months. I know the markets aren't really the best at the moment, but, you know, the team's like nonstop building.
It's a ton of work, guys. Like if you ask when marketing what we're doing, we're always building. We're making sure we have systems in place, that we're not just shooting in the dark, that we're like actually putting foundational systems in place to scale this, so that, you know, down the road, it's not just, you know, pushing out one video a day, it's pushing out one video a day in every single language.
Yeah.
Like that's where we want to be. And that's another thing too, like as far as empowering community, something that is that I didn't touch on is our international marketing. And that's another, you know, live real chat international marketing channels, like Cacao Talk is one of them that we're trying to grow a community on right now. You know, pushing content against through those social channels as well. But yeah, I mean, I remember what I was going to say about like thought leadership, and not just like, you know, the super serious real world stuff, but also like questions that people are asking, like, is 3.3 dead? Does it not work? Like, let's have someone like Cryan, Super Gigabrain, write some thought leadership article on that, so we can know, like, is 3.3 dead? I mean, I know it is in person, as I know it's not. Wag me 3.3 like all day for me. That's what we want. But there's a lot of doubts and fears and stuff on things like that people don't really cover, you know, and like maybe like a top search term, if you look at our keyword search, is KlimaDAO a Ponzi, right? We'll build content to answer all those questions so that people aren't going elsewhere, that they're coming to Klima and figuring out, no, it's not a Ponzi. It's a bunch of awesome people working together to actually create real world impact, right? And then the great thing that, you know, I guess to cap this off with all the on-page stuff, is that we have a publishing checklist, like Leontari was saying. So when we push these contents, they're not just going to go out, you know, here and there. They have a checklist, they have a designated team member and review process. So every single thing that goes out, it's checked through the appropriate branding officers, and then gets sent out on multiple channels, right? And then, you know, closing it out, we also, with the content stuff, we also want to be doing like real world case studies, to the point where it's like we have scholarly like well-researched, peer-reviewed scientific papers written on KlimaDAO. Like that, there could already be that shit written right now, and so we should be making sure that content happens, and even getting well-respected figures in the science industry to write articles on us, because I mean it's real. Like we're big and it's happening. And then like last but not least is off-page stuff. So like creating extremely shareable blog content and assets to build backlinks. So that's part of our content strategy. Since we're building this giant educational hub and we're building all these super shareable in-depth content pieces, that allows that makes people link to it. It makes people share on social channels. It makes people send it in their Discord DMs, and makes people click into it, right? Because it's all there. And so that's something that we're focusing on as far as off page, is how do we make sure that when our content is created, it's also like something that people point to as a resource or go to, right? That's huge as far as SEO. And then just recently been meeting with a ton of folks on people in like the major blockchain publication industry, traditional finance, business, major news outlets, right? And getting featured there. So that's something in the works as well. And I mean, you're going to see Klima everywhere. Like I'm telling you, it's not just going to be in the crypto world. But eventually, we want to have backlinks. We want to have it so like first paragraph in these articles from like CoinDesk and blockchain.com and Business Insider and Forbes, pointing directly to our website, and not just going to our homepage, but going to a specific part of our website that's relevant to that article, that gets the user actually engaged instead of just sending them to a generic landing page. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'll close it out with that. Getting on government websites, getting on .edu websites, tier 1 crypto publication websites. Those are all in the works, and much more. Like it never ends. Real world marketing is coming too. But we're gonna open it up for questions now. I hope that covers a lot of what you guys have been asking about what we're doing in the marketing department.
Yeah, I guess let's do like 10 minutes of really quick questions. If there's any, just type it out in Marketing Fireside chat, or we can bring you up. Kind of like unmute you in this call. Yeah, I mean what Tiger, while waiting for questions, just to echo what Tiger said, the whole marketing department has been, we've been busy, and we've been kind of like building out, really the foundations of the, for long term, right? And every single person that's it's either a lead or a key contributor, they were kind of, they have specific roles, and we specifically kind of work with people with backgrounds that fit a gap that we need, and it's a nonstop process, right? So I mean, it's a continuous process, and it's something that we really enjoy, and we hope that you guys can see all the work that's going to come out over the next few months. What's the biggest challenge marketing with Fortune 500 companies? I guess that's more for the Klima Infinity team. But when I met with the agencies over the past couple of weeks, for the branding and the PR agencies, they were asking us, what's do you want to build a brand towards mass market adoption, or B2B, right? So basically, it's this question where, are you going to be marketing towards these big companies or individuals? And the answer I always gave was that the difference between the voluntary carbon markets on Meatspace and in DeFi is that the reason why Klima exists, and the problems that we solve, is basically we made buying carbon credits really permissionless, transparent, right? and basically super easy. In meat space, to get carbon credits, it takes a really long time. You have to work through brokers, and yeah, it's basically like there's a lot of red tape, right? Um, but the thing is, the the only difference between an institution and an individual who wants to offset or wants to invest in Klima is that an an institution will just need a bit more help in terms of figuring out their carbon footprint and just try to get Klima into their ledger, right? And that's what the Klima Infinity is all about. So when I answered those agencies, what we were saying was we're already building Klima Infinity, and we can do branding around that. But what we're building the brand for is mass market adoption, right? Because creating awareness around the urgency of climate change and creating the awareness that Klima is basically the simplest and also basically one of the first few times that we can all make a difference. We create the social pressure, and that will be felt by institutions, right? And when so by catering to the mass market, we'll also be exerting that pressure on B2B, right? So, and with Klima Infinity there, it kind of, it's just a flywheel, right? So I hope that answers your question. Has any foundational work against a brand personality, overarching brand platform, etc., been conducted? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not sure if you were able to see. So we've created, like, this brand book wasn't just put together based on it wasn't just put together based on aesthetics. But on top of this, like, this was already worked on for a month and a half by the branding and design team.
Our good man Katamari threw our initial one together, and this is like the V2 version. It's like more polished up and goes over like a lot more of the foundational like core values and stuff, and tying that into our brand instead of it just being more of a stylistic guide. It's more overarching.
Yeah. So but the work that we'll be doing with the agency will pretty much build on top of this on another level. So yeah. Yeah, Horsey Gal, that's I mean, yeah, for sure. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, in terms of like finding the right agency, yeah, for sure. We're open to any kind of suggestions, but we're working with a lot of the top ones right now. I mean, we're talking to them. We also have like the creative lead, Onyx. She's also been creative director in some of the top agencies around the world for the past 15 years. But yeah, like, definitely. I mean, like Tiger said earlier, any kind of input that we can get from the community that can push Klima forward is super welcome.
Yeah, just remember, like, this is all your investment, and it's unique and awesome and revolutionary in the sense that this is a DAO. Anyone could get involved. The only reason I'm involved here is because I volunteered, and that's how I got involved in this space in general. Is I just volunteered, and it's the most rewarding feeling when you volunteer and you're like actually helping your own investment and helping your own community that you're invested in financially. So do it. Get involved. We want you here. You are KlimaDAO.
Yeah, definitely. Barrel Hound, about we get this question a lot about influencers. So influencers are, and I talked to my meat space team about this a lot. Influencers are part of a bigger kind of marketing strategy, right? So when we're thinking marketing strategy, the reason why we've been laying down these foundations for the past 2 months is that it always has to be an IMC, right? Kind of like an integrated marketing campaign where we kind of set the foundations for the brand, kind of really define our target market, define the content that we're going to be creating, and then define the publishing channels, right? So all this stuff kind of like comes together into like this kind of like massive, like, I guess, tree in a way, for strategy. And yeah, the influencers will definitely be in the mix. It's just that we wanted to get the foundations down before we start utilizing influencers as part of that strategy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Alchemy, you said looking forward to the degen customer profile personas we'll create. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the degen DeFi degens will definitely always have a place. I mean, we are a DeFi protocol, right? It's just the difference between Klima and a lot of the DeFi protocols out there is that we have to strike the balance between, you know, not leaning so hard on APY and um and yield, but really going for the vision, right? Because imagine, I'm sure you guys have experienced this, talking to your friends about uh, the DeFi protocols you're involved with, right? Like it's hard to go into a conversation and just be like, oh, hey, look at this project, like with X amount of yield and APY. Um, it yeah, it only, I think it caters to a specific type of people, and we have to make our vision kind of really our first foot forward, um, when we talk to the mass market. But of course, reinforce that with the financial incentives that comes along with it, right? Because in the end, that's our vision. We want to align the fight for climate change with incentives, not just for individuals, but also for but also for institutions. Barrel Hound, that last word you said is not allowed in here.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to that though is, I mean, something that people might not understand too is we don't have any control over that. Like it's a trustless protocol with a pool out there, and just don't get wrecked. It's not worth it. Stay tree. It's the safest. It's by far the stronger strategy, coming
Dominant
from
strategy,
someone who's rode the highs and gotten liquidated, and everything in between. Just stay tree. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Trust me. But yeah, we like to discourage 990, discourage risky leveraging always. It's not good for the protocol. It's not good for people individually. But I'm a massive DJ myself, so you know what I mean. I've gotten wrecked. I've done it myself. Don't let me be the example that you learn from. Don't do it. But and then
give me your seed phrase. Give me your seed phrase, Tiger. Just to make sure.
House, barn. But yeah, what's let me say about like the Qualtrics surveys is like we don't have that level of sample size and like quality of survey tools, right? But it's something we definitely want to work towards and make happen. But we're just working with what we can. We're scrappy. We work with what we got. So our data has been just internally what we've all experienced. So kind of anecdotal. Us talking with people in the community. Like I sit in the Climate Clubhouse all the time, and just talk to people and ask them like,
yeah,
how's the website? What do you think we need to improve on? That kind of stuff. And so that's what people have said. Like it's too confusing. It's not normie friendly enough. It's the average person won't get it. It looks like a scam. Whatever. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, data proved us wrong.
Yeah, all me definitely. Coming from somebody who's kind of like started like multiple startups too. Like a lot of the insights that I still like, the first brand I built was like almost 12 years ago, and a lot of the insights that we still use right now in terms of designing our retail stores or our websites basically came from me just like in like my founding team to just really just stand like in the store, like in the first one that we built, and just talk to people, right? So yeah, like like one of the reasons why I love working with Tiger is that Tiger's like very data forward, but at the same time, like he said also, like right now we basically take the data that we have with the interactions that we've made, and we make our kind of content and marketing strategy decisions based on that.
Data, it's big. I mean, that's why we're going to be able to measurably track everything that we're doing and showing that we're actually making a measurable difference in the world. So we got the data, the technology to show it. Great question from Unicorn Cowboy. I love this one because like I was kind of like on the fence about this one when I first got into Klima. So what's the pronunciation? Is it like when I say climate, like Klima, or is it like Klima? So it's both. That's what we decided. It's a Greek root, and which from Klima, which means climate. But it's also in several other languages like German and I want to say like Italian and French. But it's pronounced a bunch of different ways, and we kind of like it like that because it's like Klima is like such a personal like brand, right? And like organization. And so if you think it should be called Klima, then you should call it Klima. I call it Klima usually all the time, just because I'm like more familiar with that. But Klima, it's the same thing. We're all gonna make it. It's like it's cool. There's a duality there. It can be whatever you want.
Okay. Goddamn had a good question. He said, how can you justify spending heavy six figures in external agency when the DAO is struggling to maintain revenue? Yeah, so one of the things that, I mean, we do, the way, okay, honestly, like, okay, this DAO is, we've been growing, right? And the way that the core and council kind of looks at the DAO is, we've never really looked at this as kind of like a degen thing that's a pump and dump. So we've always been kind of working, and we do watch the treasury, we watch the budget, we treat it as a startup that we need to build for long term, right? And we're always going for sustainability. And when we talk to the agencies, of course we're not going to be considering the ones that are going to ask us to spend like really crazy, right? So there is still, we want to work with the best, but there are agencies that have their kind of vision aligned with us, right? And and these are the agencies that we'll engage with. And when we talk about payment structures, we also want that to be sustainable. So I hope that kind of like appeases you in terms of that question, because we do have the budget in mind, and everything we're doing is to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable for long term. So we want to build the best brand that we can possibly build with the resources that we have, and we are very, very mindful and definitely will not overspend, because we are cognizant that this is, in a sense, it's basically like a public company, right? Like every person here has ownership over the DAO, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing those resources really well. Tiger, you want to touch on that as well?
Yeah, totally. I mean, as someone who's seen a bunch of businesses do stupid shit over and over again, especially like financial planning and stuff.
Yeah.
That's like always like it's something that's always top of mind. It's like, how do we keep this sustainable? That's why like people are always talking about like APY, and that's why we have a policy team that's constantly monitoring, and an operations team that's constantly monitoring. Hey, like our working capital is not as big as it did because the premium on Klima isn't as high as it used to be the last few months. So we need to figure out a better way of how we manage like this revenue source. And like I mentioned earlier on this call, one of the things that we were wanting to do, and definitely is going to happen, is creating financial, like traditional finance type, like Web3-tized financial statements for what we got going, so that we can really look at what we have going on and see how our revenues are coming in, and maybe how we can utilize them better. But like first and foremost, we're making sure that we can always continue to pay our paid contributors who have worked here day in, day out, 7 days a week, like crazy hours, just like because they love working for Klima. We want to make sure that we can continue to support them pouring their whole life into Klima. And so like first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're taking care of our people. And so when we're looking at like working capital and budget and stuff, like that's our number one thing, because if we can keep everyone here building and taken care of, then Klima is just going to continue to grow and get more massive, and more talented people will come here. And eventually our goal is that, Klima is the place where it's like the best place to be in the world. So it's like, it's not just like something, I applied some crypto place online. It's like, I want to go work at Klima. I want to be involved with Klima because I know I'm going to have a measurable impact on the world if I'm actually like working for them, right? But to build up, and right now that's why we're on a hiring freeze, and that's why we haven't hired any external agencies yet. That's why we just put out that KIP to help us make our revenue runway a little bit more lenient, so we can just make sure that we're not messing with our most valuable and like productive contributors, like their wage and their livelihood and stuff, but also maybe start figuring out ways that we can create additional revenue sources and revenue streams that pay for themselves. So that's like another thing, like, right, like if we're going to hire an external agency, they're going to have to prove to me that that amount of revenue that we're spending on them is also coming and getting returned to Klima. If that's not happening, it's not going to fly by me. So that's another thing. We're going to make sure that that never happens. We're not just sending money into a pit unless that's what the community wants, because it's for a good reason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every kind of like DAO and startup has their own kind of like prioritization, right? For in terms of like where to spend your resources to be able to grow sustainably. So we do keep that in mind. Any other questions? I think let's close it here. I think we've run for almost a couple of hours now.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you everybody for joining the call. I hope that answered a lot of your questions. Like really the main kind of thing. I mean, you'll see a lot of the work coming out in the next few weeks. But really the main thing here is we just wanted to give you guys kind of like an overview and a background of how we've been building and how kind of like the framework the mental framework that we have when we approach kind of the building Klima as a brand. And yeah, so super appreciate you guys, and just shout out to the whole marketing creative team. Every single person in the team is a rock star. We haven't really had churn in the team, and I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, throw that tree in the chat. We're gonna stick together, keep treeing. Flag me. Appreciate everyone here. Appreciate everyone working to make sure that this happens, and appreciate everyone spreading the positive vibes despite the shitty market. Love all you guys. Thanks for having us.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Peace.